Welcome back to Dev Talks. Yes, I'm Joy, and no, Fly's not here, but Toady is. Flybox is on vacation, and Toady has graciously been able to join me for the next 2 episodes of Dev Talks while Fly is on his well-deserved vacation. So you just got us two gals for this round, where we're going to be looking at the economy for Cities Skylines too. Toady, how are you doing today, and how are you feeling about this dev diary?
Hello, I'm so excited. I'm well. I feel I'm perhaps a poor substitute for Mr. Vox, but I will do my best. But this dev diary is one of the ones that I'm looking forward to the most. It's big, it's thick, there's a lot going on with it. And I'm stoked to see how they hopefully kind of simplify things in the video.
Same. Yeah. I am excited. Let's go.
Okay.
They say money makes the world go round. It's as true in Cities Skylines too as it is in our world.
Let's
Keep
go.
your city spinning by steering its economy on a course to prosperity. Your city's economic simulation is modeled on real-world economics. This introduces complexity and nuance to city building without making it complicated.
I love
the
that
economic
sentence.
system in Cities Skylines 2 is
Without making it complicated.
Yeah,
city.
totally.
And as it develops, to give you influence over the financial levers that generate wealth. You'll raise
That
revenue
plane-
by taxing the
Yeah.
sale of
Look
goods
at all
and
of it. Look at all the
services,
things you
energy
can do.
production, the extraction of raw
It's so
materials,
good.
tourism, and
Wow.
more. You'll also tax private incomes, as healthy economic activity will mean jobs
Okay.
for citizens. With money in your city's coffers, you can invest in city services and infrastructure.
I don't know if I've heard the
schools
word
and
coffers
universities,
in
and all the other
a
engines of
century.
urban development. An important aspect of economic growth is balancing supply and demand.
That looks
Businesses
cool.
will do this automatically,
Oh,
exporting
and that
their
guy
goods
just
when they
walked through the
produce more
wall?
than the market wants. However, this can hit their bottom line as transport costs can reduce profitability. To keep the rate of production in line with
Interesting.
demand, businesses will even fire employees.
That's really
On the
fun.
flip side,
Businesses
when products
firing
aren't made
employees.
fast enough to meet local demand,
I don't know if that happened
Wow.
in
in your
CS1.
city will be forced to buy from
No.
expensive outside connections, and that can quickly eat into profits too.
Yeah, look at all of that. That's so much
Taxes can
now.
also influence the production rate of
I
specific
love all the
goods.
data. Give it
You
all
can
to
slow
me.
the rate of
Yeah.
production by raising taxes. Lower taxes
Wow.
to accelerate production.
The
rates in more
vegetables. I'm
similar
so excited about the
manufacturers to your
vegetables.
city. It's also possible to motivate businesses to specialize in ways that strengthen the economy.
This
Imagine
specialization
reducing taxes
thing,
for furniture
Cool.
stores
I don't
and the various
understand it.
industries
Like,
that manufacture
I
their
do
products.
understand it,
That will make them
but I
more
kind of
profitable.
don't at the
More
same time.
businesses specializing in the design and manufacture of furniture
Wow,
will crop up.
look at that.
Before you know it, your city will have a flourishing
Cannot
furniture trade
wait.
and a reputation that keeps cash flowing in. Managing and adjusting production chains is another way you can influence your city's economy. Overhaul in
tool.
City Skylines
Yeah,
2, this
it's
adds
rad.
a whole new dimension to city building. There's no need to micromanage every detail if you don't want to. But if you love a puzzle,
Okay.
there's almost no limit to how
Yeah.
deep you can go.
They're really
I do
catering
love a
to it.
puzzle.
Material
Yeah.
extraction. You can get raw materials into the city by importing them or producing them locally. Opt for local production, and you'll need to establish a
Oh,
specialized
so
industry area.
beautiful.
There are 9 total.
Look at
4
that.
are farms where you can raise livestock or grow either grain, vegetables, or cotton.
Veggies.
Forests produce timber, though how much depends on the age of the forest. You can extract
That's cool,
ore,
the age of the
stone,
forest.
or
So you
coal
hear
from
that
underground
early on in your
deposits.
city, plant a
And
bunch of
lastly,
trees.
You can drill for oil. You'll
Wow.
manage all this activity via the economy panel. It puts your city's finances at a glance and allows you to monitor and adjust production
This
outputs
is
for
so
various goods
cool.
and materials. With integrated tools
I've
and
lost
clear
many
displays,
an
the
hour
economy
in this
panel is
panel.
a user-friendly way to manage and grow
I'm
your
sure you
economy. So, if money really does make the world turn, how will you grow your city's economy so everyone in it can enjoy the ride?
Carefully, poorly.
Just a little note from editor Joy here. This ends up being a really awesome conversation. It's more of a podcast type video, so put on your headphones, go for a walk, or put this on in the background while you're doing things around the house. But I think you will thoroughly enjoy this conversation with me and the wonderful Toady. So enjoy. Oh my goodness. This was a lot. This was a lot. And the PDF is meaty. I would suggest everyone definitely to go read it, or better yet, go join Toady for her in-depth breakdown of this after this for sure.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to link that in the video if I can.
Sure.
But Toady, you've actually had the opportunity to play this game. I know you're not allowed to say certain things, but what is your overall impression of the economy so far in the game before we dive into talking through the PDF a little bit?
Yeah, I have been having the conversation with my community about how some folks are like a little bit nervous that it might be too difficult of a game, almost that it might be too much more difficult than CS1 was. And from playing, I think the number one thing that's going to bring that like quote difficulty is the money, is the economy. In CS1 it was kind of easy, right? Like as long as you made services happen, you pretty much were in the positive. But in CS2 it's not that straightforward right out of the gate. But so it's just, but then in reading the PDF and then hearing in this video as well, they have said a couple times that they are specifically trying to make it so that you don't have to micromanage if you don't want to, but also, as we're seeing when they pull up the economy panel here, you obviously can micromanage a whole bunch.
Right.
So I think I'm just missing maybe something about, I have a sneaky suspicion that somebody is going to figure out what the kind of trick is or whatever, and then it's just going to be like, oh yes, that's how that works.
Right.
And then the quote easier mode will kind of be available.
Yeah, and that's what is going to be exciting about us all playing the game together in October, is we're all going to be able to help each other, you know? So yeah, I'm sure someone will figure it out. Well, let's dive into a little bit what we learned in the PDF. So like the video said, it's modeled after real life economics. Again, the vibe of this whole game is realism. And they said in the PDF that it's designed to balance itself out in most cases to support new players or new cities. And then they said, an important part, they said there's actually a financial aid, which is in the form of government subsidies like unemployment benefits. Like we do know we got from a prior dev diary, we know we're going to get that special city building that's to help your citizens that aren't doing so well in life. So I'm assuming those are kind of tied together. And there's these different, they called them agents in the PDF. So there's household, businesses, and city services. So even though the PDF is really dense and confusing, if you look at it from like a very like logical standpoint and real life standpoint, it actually crystallized for me when I was reading the PDF. But again, reading it and playing it are two different things.
Yeah.
Completely. So I don't know if all that's gonna gel for us, you know, when we get in to play it.
I think if you're the type of person who's kind of really like really reading over these dev diaries, or at the very least watching all of these videos before you play, I think reading it is really going to be a benefit to your gameplay. From the experience of having played without a lot of the knowledge that's in the dev diary, some of the stuff that they're saying, it is kind of either intuitive or like straight up spelled out in the game, but it's not, it's certainly not, you know, pages upon pages like these documents are that are inside the game. So I think it's helpful to have it there. I really want to like sit here and study it with a highlighter for 4 hours and then go start up a new city and see if I can see what the what the real tick is. Yeah.
So the thing in the PDF that was interesting is it talked about these agents. So it's the household, businesses, and city services, which I found interesting. So the households spend money to buy resources and pay rent. That makes logical sense in real life. Businesses buy resources to sell to other businesses or customers. Okay, that makes sense to me. But businesses also pay rent. So that's interesting. And then they were talking about how certain city services also will consume resources. So it's just really, it's like when you take yourself out of the game part of it, I find that logically I can wrap my head around it. But I feel like once I get into the game, I feel like that's going to kind of float out of my head. And I think it's like the fact that this game is so based in realism, I think it's going to throw some of us for a loop until we come back to be like, well, wait a minute, like, what would I do? You know what I mean? Like, maybe for those that have experiences running a business or something like that, but it does look so in depth.
It does, yeah. But you said it really, really well. I feel the same. Like when I am reading through this, I'm like, yeah, of course, that's how that works in the real world. And then I try to think about, okay, what does that mean for me playing a video game? And there's some parts of it that I think I can simplify a little bit. They talk about money sinks and money sources, and that information in there is helpful, or sorry, it's interesting, but it's not like, I think that's not something that we need to concentrate on as a player, at least in the early figuring out life stages, figuring out the game stages.
Yeah.
I think some of the important things it goes over in the dev diary, it talks about how it breaks down where houses want to be around workplaces, schools, and leisure. That's super makes sense. And then when you go to zone your commercial and your industry, the dev diary talks about where those, like, what kind of services and places those zoning types want to be around. And I think that's going to be the part that we can like take into the video game. So when we're going to zone our commercial, we can think, okay, commercial wants a balance of distance between the housing, which is where it's going to sell its products to, and the industry, which is where it's going to get its products from. Because if that's imbalanced in either direction, then the trucks have to drive longer and they have to pay more money for their products because of that drive.
Right.
And then it's similar with the industry. It wants to be close to the commercial because of that exact same reason. It wants to drive the truck less to cost less money or whatever.
Right.
That stuff I think is important to, I don't know,
Yeah,
understand.
totally.
I
And
guess.
now thinking back to past dev diaries, it wasn't making sense to me before why we were seeing areas where we shouldn't place offices or we shouldn't place things. Remember in earlier dev diaries, they were kind of showing us. Now that's crystallized because where you decide to place things actually now totally impacts how your city makes money, i.e. how successful those businesses are. So it's really intricate, but also it makes sense, you know? It's like you were saying, the households look for homes. So households meaning people, they look for homes in locations that are near work, near school, near leisure, which makes sense. The cool thing in the PDF that was like mind-blowing to me, which is so cool, is that your citizens will go shopping when the AI detects that it lacks resources.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool complexity that, you know, the game is just going to do that will help simulate real life, which I just thought that was so cool. I was like, oh, well, it makes logical sense. We've never had that kind of detail in the game before.
Yeah, we're going from a video game to a realism-based video game, and that switch I think is going to be a bit of a jump, but I think we'll find this new norm pretty smooth within a while, I guess.
Yeah.
It goes on to talk about the kind of like production chain, I guess. And I am both excited and a little terrified to try to draw this production chain out in MS Paint. I want to try. But basically it's the flow of it feels the same as CS1. So like from industry to commercial to residential. That's the super basic flow, right? But then they've added these complexities because there are, you can see it on screen, there's all of these different subtypes, I guess, of products that are being made. And some subtypes are, how do they call it? Physical, and some of them are not physical. I forget what they call that. Material and immaterial. And the immaterial ones go to offices, and then offices can still take that software and sell it to other offices as software, who will then turn it into stuff for the commercial buildings. It's so much more intricate now, but I think you can really dive down into those intricacies in that like taxation and services, or the taxation panel and the budget panel. But as long as you kind of remember that overarching flow of industry to commercial to residential, that's the basics of what you're going to need to have your city's economy move forward.
Yeah. And the other thing in the PDF that was interesting is when looking at all these, so they say households, but I'm replacing that with citizens because that just makes sense to me. So when you're citizens, if they can't find a place to live, they become homeless, which is so interesting to me because we never had that in the game. And with the commercial and the office and the industry, if they don't have, if they're not making money, if they're not profitable, if they can't pay their rent or upkeep, then they will go bankrupt and go abandoned. So it's all the reasons that would make sense for someone to become homeless, unfortunately, or for your business not to succeed. It makes logical sense, but yeah, we've just never had that in a game before, so that's going to be really interesting. And yeah, I like how in the video they described it, if you like puzzles, because it really does feel like that. And so for me, like big picture thinking, I'm worried about not being able to detail anymore, but I love this type of detail in the details of managing and figuring things out. Like I've always really enjoyed the industries and getting that to like make as much money as possible. So I can see maybe the economy becomes my quote unquote new detail obsession, right? Like in a different way. So and maybe that will happen for other people too. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the different industry areas because we have a 9 now.
Yes.
How amazing is that?
We do.
So
and I think if I remember right, the part that interests me, so there's kind of a couple things that like stick out in the PDF for me. I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. So specialized industry areas typically require natural resources to function: fertile land, forest, ore, and oil. Except livestock farming can be zoned anywhere, they say, and stone quarrying, I can never say that word, can be done anywhere. And I didn't actually realize that about the stone, so I've been placing stone over ore or whatever deposit, and I've been wasting resources until now. But I think that's a me problem. Just don't read. I'm really, really excited about that. And then I saw somewhere in the PDF they talk about ore and oil and that they do run out. And unless I have missed something in these like dev diaries and in the videos, we haven't seen an unlimited ore oil option as we did in CS1.
no,
So
we have not.
If that's true, like if that's the case and we don't have that kind of like crutch, I guess, it's kind of forcing us to face the reality that they are a limited resource, and we have to actually deal with that, which brings it back to the realism type thing.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting how this is all going to work with each other with these specialized industry areas. So they're the 9 different specialized industry areas. 4 of them are farming, which makes me so happy. So there's
Same.
livestock, grain, vegetable farming. I'm so excited about having a vegetable farm, and cotton farming. And then of course there's forestry, like you were saying, stone, coal, or an oil, which is just so nice to have a wider variety. And I love seeing that the farming is now split up more appropriately, I believe. So that's very exciting. I think my thing with forestry is I would have loved to see like Christmas tree farm, like it's section, but that's okay. We can make our own, but like for the cuteness factor. But the other thing in the PDF that I am so excited about, and I'm trying to visualize how it's going to work, but this is going to be so great for traffic, because there is now what they're calling specialized industry vehicles. They are not a part of the normal traffic per the PDF. They do not drive on roads, but they still travel on paths created by the simulation itself when the industrial area is created, which I'm having a hard time visualizing. So I guess that's something we'll have to see when we're in the game. You know what this is because you've had a chance to play it. But I think that's so great because it makes sense. Let's say if you do have a forestry area and you have your, like the game is set up now. I don't know how it's going to be now, but we have the main building and the workers' barracks and all that. All the transportation that goes on in between those buildings isn't going to count for our overall traffic and is contained and is going to do its own thing without us having to create roads for it, which is interesting. But also I'm just having a hard time visualizing that, but I'm excited about it regardless.
Yeah. It does. It's fun. It's kind of fun to have a part of the game like that it's kind of out of our control, sort of. Like you draw your industry area and then you watch it do its thing. And I really so like cool. that. Yeah, I think it's really fun to be able to do that. And there's still plenty of traffic that you'll have to figure out that is taking the goods like from the industry area to where they need to go after they've been collected and all that sort of thing. So the traffic management is totally still there, but it's not like annoyingly there, because like you were saying, you have in CS1 you had to fight with going from the barracks to the field to the producer, manufacturer, duber. I'm so good with words.
Right.
All of that obnoxious internal traffic. But now I feel like it's a good balance now. I feel like it's a good balance of the challenge of traffic with like the delivery trucks, but the obnoxiousness of traffic isn't there.
Yeah, that's exciting. The economy panel that we've been seeing here, it has finances, loans, taxes, service budgets, and production of different resources within the city. The thing that was interesting in the PDF is there's only one loan available now, but the loan is adjustable. It can be paid back or increased at will, and the size of the loan available to you increases on each milestone, along with the loan interest rate also changes with the milestones, like decreases. And then they also said another way you can reduce the interest rate on your loan is by building the city hall and the central bank. So it's nice that those are tied together, which I think makes sense instead of having like this loan, this loan, this loan. It seems like there's probably going to be some sort of like little slider and you can kind of decide how much money you want to take, which is cool. Again, it's more control over the realism of the city that you're building.
Yeah, for sure. And it's simplified, which is really nice. And I'm pretty sure I've seen other games in the genre do it this way. And I think that's for a reason. Like, it's simpler. It makes sense. It kind of gives you more control over how much you're taking, because before it was either 20, 60 or $200,000. But now it's you can manipulate it plus or minus at will. So yeah. I think the loan makes a lot of sense. It's got the tax rates. I think we had learned a little bit about taxes in a previous dev diary, right? So we already knew that residential zones you adjust per education, which I found a little bit strange, but I guess it is what it is. I wish I could tax by wealth, but I guess education kind of ties to wealth in a way. And then,
well, not in the real world, but in this game it does, so we'll go with it. But
yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It bothers me too on another level.
Yeah.
Like, wait.
I would like to but what is really cool is that for the commercial industry and office, you don't have just one tax slider for commercial and one for industry. You have one for each of the different product types, and they talk about subsidizing production of products that you want more of in your city, so you can whack their taxes way down low and encourage them to make more of that product if you find that to be something that you want to happen, which that's not something we've ever had before.
No,
yeah.
Detail is amazing.
Yeah.
And it can work the opposite way too. Like if you're saying, I don't want this industry in my city, get out of here. Just tax them out.
Absolutely.
And then it's not affecting the rest of your things, which is very cool.
Yeah.
I think that's super cool. Well, this was a lot. There's a lot of detail in the PDF. I strongly suggest you go take your time, and I would do like Tony. I would print it out, grab your highlighter, have it ready for when you get the game. But also, if you want even more of a breakdown, Tony's going to be going detailed into the PDF a little later today. So when that's up, I'll add the link to the description of this video, or you can just go follow Toady. Where are you doing that today?
So at 12 noon Eastern, I chat with my Twitch chat about it live at twitch.tv/ToadyZZZ. So you're welcome to be part of that. And then I put that entire chat on my second YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@Toad2, TWO.
Perfect. And I'll put the links to both of those in the description for everyone. So if you want to
Thanks.
hop over and join Toady later today and dive into this more, which, there's a lot here.
There's so
it's very
much.
Exciting though.
Yeah.
So
And you know what
exciting. We only talked about a very small portion of the PDF too.
Yeah. And it's funny because we've got kind of like our little notes set up. And so the PDF is, let's say it's X big, right? And then the kind of notes that we have set out is a little bit smaller than that, maybe half of that. And we've actually talked about maybe 3/4 or so of the notes that we set out. So there's so much.
Yeah. There's so much there. There's so much there.
I'm equally excited because I think next week is potentially going to be just as amazing and like thick as this week. I'm so excited for next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're going to be joining me later this week for the insights. So those videos usually have more insight. So I'm hoping we get more detail in that one as well. So that'll be really fun. So thank you again for coming in and filling in with Fly. And yes, you're not a bad replacement at all. It's great. Fly is so happy that you are taking his spot for vacation. I know he's a huge fan of yours. So this has been really fun. Again, so I'll put the links to all of Toadie's stuff so you can join her later today so you can dive into this deep, and then come back on Thursday. Toadie and I will be back going over the insight video. I hope you all have a joyful day, and I'll catch you next time.